Callahan.
So it is, we're live now, so it's 11 o'clock Pacific, Thursday, April 30th, 2015. This is DB Hangops. Today we're going to be talking about, actually we're going to be doing a recap of the Percona Live conference for folks who were there. And for folks who weren't there, there's still going to be plenty of things to talk about, but I think the high level is for people who were there, talk about things you went to, talks you liked, maybe have links to some of those things for folks to look at. A lot of folks have put up their slides after the presentations. And also a few other things that have come up recently. So real quick, let's do a round of introductions. My name's Jeff. I'm a database administrator at Fox. Why don't we go ahead with Daniel?
I'm Daniel. I'm a DBA at Booking.com.
Okay, Jerry.
I'm Jerry Narvaja. I'm technical account manager at MariaDB.
Okay, Jeremy.
Jeremy Tinley, DB guy at Etsy.
Okay, Mark.
I'm Mark Leith. I'm a development manager with the MySQL group in Oracle.
Okay, Morgan.
Morgan Tucker, community manager at Oracle.
And Pim.
Hi, my name is Pim Vanderwall. I'm a DBA at Acquia.
Shlomi Kill-9 noch.
Hi, I'm Shlomi. I'm from Booking.com.
Tim.
I'm Tim Callahan, sole proprietor at Acme Benchmarking Corporation.
And Valerie. I don't know if Valerie's mic is working yet.
Microphone. Hi, long time no see. I'm Valerie. I am now at Pythian.
Oh, cool. And
yep,
Valerie, you were previously at Mozilla?
No, WebAssign.
WebAssign, okay.
Yep.
Cool, welcome.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so yeah, I guess just to kind of get kicked off today, first things first, and let me get a screen share going for this. So it turns out today that a new security vulnerability has hit for MySQL called, there's this lovely website, backronym.fail. It's currently being called the backronym vulnerability. I was actually notified by a few different people about this, and as silly as this website looks, this is an actual vulnerability with SSL downgrading in MySQL. So if you hit up this website, there's a few other references that you can look at. Specifically, Todd Farmer did a small write-up on it, talking about SSL TLS in 5.6 and 5.5, and how that you can negotiate a downgrade as a client. And he has a good walkthrough here of how you can actually do this. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, MySQL 5.7 is the only one that actually, 5.7.3 and newer has the actual fix right now.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. So, well, not cool. That actually kind of sucks. So if you're running SSL on your databases and you're not running MySQL 5.7.3, you should probably set aside some time today to upgrade. I'll definitely have all the stuff in the show notes, and feel free to tweet about it if you have any questions. I will probably send you along to other people who are already dealing with it. Anyways, so anyone have any comments on that before we move on, or?
Yeah, quick comment. Todd's post is really, I think, one of the best ones, so thanks for highlighting it. He describes that to fix this in 5.5 and 5.6 would require a behavior change. Behavior changes break apps. Would love feedback on that to know what the correct step is and say if you're affected or what your thoughts are on it. That's my only comment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, my mic was muted.
No problem.
Alrighty, cool. So I guess without further ado, let's dive into the Percona Live recap. First off, who was there? I guess a small show of hands. I'm assuming Valerie's hand may or may not be raised. She's a black screen right now. Oh, she's saying no. Okay, cool. Well, so for the folks that were there, overall impressions, how'd you feel about it? Go. I don't want to go first for this one.
I'll go. I thought it was great, actually, meeting up with a lot of people, definitely from this chat. There were some good talks, definitely. Also by a number of people in this chat, most notably Shlomi, of course, who treated it all to a kill-9 of one of his production servers. Very educational. I really enjoyed learning what tools you guys use and seeing, for example, Twitter did a good session about how they upgraded to MySQL 5.6 and what issues they encountered because it's something that we're facing ourselves at Acquia. The Oracle presentations were definitely good. Luis Suarez did a good one on new replication stuff in MySQL 5.7. Those are a couple things that caught my eye or that I enjoyed there. Other people?
I did indeed kill -9 server in production, but to be fair, I asked the audience, should I do it or should I not do it, and everyone said, do it, do it.
You can't blame it on the audience, Shlomi.
No, it was the audience, so they pushed me onto it. As in each year, I agree with Pim. It was mostly great to see everyone, and as usual, talking to the guys, to everyone. Just behind the scenes, in the corridor, just talk about what they do. That was the most beneficial part of the conference for me. There was some good talks. I especially enjoyed watching the Vitesse talk. So this was actually the first time I got like a full. I thought it was. So it's much more than automated sharding from MySQL. It's a lot more than that. There were many good talks about, what tools can we use. I just like these talks of how do we do it, how we solved our problems. So of course, some Facebook talks are never, you can watch them again and again, and they're always good. The InnoDB Ruby is always a big hit. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I kind of same thing here. Overall, I thought it was an extremely good conference. Definitely enjoyed Shlomi killing a production server just to demonstrate that Orchestrator will work. And all the other talks that folks had done. I'm actually finding, too, there were a lot of talks that were really good talks that all happened at kind of common times. So definitely going back to the conference website, checking out the speaker and the presentation pages to see if talks have been uploaded so that we can look at them now after the fact. And I can see there's like a lot of good stuff around locking, schema management, and just kind of good resources even for passing along to newer DBAs that might be coming into the field. And something else I wanted to highlight super quick is if you search for it, Percona did put up some photos from various parts of the conference under a couple different albums. There were photographers running all over the place taking some amazing photos. And I can't find any right now of the Wednesday night kind of party night thing, but that if anyone has pictures of those, there was some really, really fun stuff going on there. They opened up the doors out next to the expo hall, and they had this whole setup, rock climbing, Segway riding, something called the Meltdown, which is like a horrific bounce castle of doom. It was a lot of fun.
And the rock band or whatever, people doing karaoke like video gaming.
Well, you've got the stage there, Jerry. Go ahead.
Okay, so for me, the highlights were the keynotes and the announcements. The keynotes were all very good, some better than others, but in general, very good information. I didn't see too much marketing, although the mandatory marketing was there. The WAS talk, or I should say interview, was a little bit wonky, but it gave me an odd feeling at the end when he said that he'd rather treat his pets right. So when AI takes over, he's going to be the family pet for whatever robot occupies his home. I think he has a point there. So that's what I rescue from the WAS talk and some of the stories with Steve Jobs in high school and things like that. As Shlomi said, a lot of important information that I gathered on the hallways and the informal talks at the bar, at the different social events. I have friends that I met back in '98 that were there, so good to see them again at these events. We miss you, Tim. We wish you that you find an excuse to be there next year. Other than that, of course, for me, the highlight was the acquisition of Tokutech by Percona. I think that's going to be good for the MySQL, for TokuDB in particular, and for Percona, TokuMX is really interesting story to tell in the years to come, and I would like to see how that develops in the future.
Cool. Anyone else? Jeremy?
Sure. I think this is my third, and definitely one of my favorites. The game night was a huge hit, and I think if anybody really enjoyed that, make sure you give that feedback back to Percona so that they know that it was really fun for you. From the talks, I had my own, which I think was reasonably well attended. Hopefully, I can get a chance to give that presentation maybe here. And then my favorite was Sam's from GitHub. He had a great talk on ChatOps and really just a general overview of how GitHub does MySQL. But the one thing I really took away and want to take back to Etsy is the way that they utilize and integrate chat into everything. When you're working in your terminal, nobody else can see what you're doing. And that makes it kind of limiting, and you feel like maybe you have to share that information back to somebody when you're done with something. But if you're always working in chat, everybody already sees what you're doing. So I think that was really important to work from or kind of change how we do our working style. We'll get into like war room chats for something, and somebody's like, well, we should go find out this, and then you have no idea if they're actually going to find it out or is somebody else picking it up, and then there's the question of like, well, let me paste this in or give you some links to graphs. So like, it's all just right there that everybody can see it, everybody knows what's going on. So that was definitely the one I took away probably the most from.
Yeah, it was kind of the same for me last year when Sam gave the first pass at the ChatOps talk for MySQL at the conference in 2014, and that's what kind of that was the catalyst to get us started on putting together ChatOps internally and really addressing some of the other challenges around it, specifically with security and approval flows that didn't work as well for us, but we are definitely getting better, and totally agree. It was pretty good stuff overall. Who else am I missing here? Daniel, you were there. What was your opinion?
Yeah, it was the first time that I went to the Percona conference in Santa Clara. I've been before to other Percona conferences, and yeah, I really liked it. There was many people from all the different parts of the MySQL community. So besides all the great talks, talking to people in the hall, it was really good.
Cool. And actually, real quick, Shlomi, since you're here, we had a few folks here also got community awards while we were at the conference, right?
Yeah, unmute. Yes, indeed. So as in each year, there was a community organization giving away community awards. So quite a few faces here. Either committee members or winners or past winners or whatever. So each year we come around, we gather. It's typically winners of the past year or two or three, and we just hang around and decide who should win this year's awards. And we had three community member winners, which are Daniel, right here. We had, Justin Swanhart and Morgan. Yay! Morgan is also here. So these are our three community award members, award winners. We had the Syschema. Hey, Mark! We had the Syschema win the product application of the year award, as well as Vivid Cortex. And corporate award to all members of WebScaler Skill, which means Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, Alibaba, and Facebook. So I thought it was nice, and hopefully next year we'll get new candidates.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I guess unless folks have other things they want to talk about with respect to the conference or just recap overall about it, there's plenty of other things we can talk about today. that actually came in after I put up the initial blog post. So anything else on Percona, or should we kind of move on?
Yeah, just noting down that Percona Live Europe is going to be in Amsterdam this year, and the call for paper is open. And I think the call for paper for MySQL Central is just expired today. Morgan, fix me if I'm wrong on this.
I'm not sure if it's official yet, but it's to be extended by 1 week. So please, yeah, please get in your talks. It should still work for 1 week.
Jeff.
Hey, I think one of the session formats, that we really like is really your use cases. That was something that someone mentioned about Percona as well. I think that format's really become popular over the last couple of years.
As a person who didn't attend, I do have a question kind of to the floor. Did any of you folks either spend time in the booth or see the presentations by the folks at DeepDB?
So I talked with someone at the DeepDB booth for a little bit, and I think they were on either the keynote panel the first day, or they might have had a keynote after that. It sounds like they
in the panel, right?
Yeah. Did anyone go to any of the talks? I personally didn't.
I did not, but it'd be really cool to have them on this call if they want to describe how it works.
I actually had some interactions with them before the conference, 2 weeks before the conference, so I did not spend too much time at the conference with them.
Okay. I think I wasn't there, but I think one interesting, so Percona acquires Tokutech. DeepDB is a relatively new write-optimized storage engine, and RocksDB is, I think, still in process of getting their Handlerton and storage engine done. So it's kind of interesting to see 2015 a resurgence of some new and interesting storage engines, and the stuff that Inno's working on as well. I think there's some interesting times ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's the thing. Like the Toku acquisition announcement was kind of a big thing, and then Facebook was there. I think it was Yoshinori was talking about plugging RocksDB in as a storage engine. Fisk had mentioned it during his keynote. And there's a GitHub project that is covering that. I mean, it's been pretty active. They've been doing a lot of work on it. And yeah, DeepDB, they definitely had a bigger presence there. I've talked to them a few times over the past year or two, I think. And it sounds like, yeah, they have some sort of pretty interesting solution around write optimization as opposed to InnoDB. So I'll take that down as a note, though. Maybe next time we get them on here to talk about just a little more how the product works and what's going on internally.
Did you see the Vivid Cortex one recently as well, Tim? The this new time series optimized one that they just announced.
I haven't. Another storage engine?
Yeah, literally, like in the last couple of days. I think it was yesterday or the day before. One of their guys has written a time series optimized storage engine as well.
Pluggable storage API, like.
They've been looking at a lot of different external solutions. I'm kind of surprised to see that they built their own.
Yeah, it was interesting. Did anyone actually go to the to Baron's talk about the architecture they have set up?
I went to his talk about encryption, but not about their architecture.
Okay.
Interesting talk, but very well. Half of it was dedicated to how you do encryption, pretty much in the application or in the database, but not that relevant to their product.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess last minute, any other things on Percona, or should we move on to some other stuff?
Just out of curiosity, I didn't think that the panel in the keynotes was that enlightening. Do other people agree with that? I mean, Jerry, you said you liked it, right?
Quick change of subject. So I wanted to I just wanted to mention Stefan's message from Facebook on the keynote. So if you weren't there, and guys from Oracle, you can shut your ears. Facebook, Twitter, Alibaba, LinkedIn, and Google team up with Percona and MariaDB and offer to Oracle to release all their code under the Apache OCL, I believe, a commercial OCL license. And if Oracle agrees to that license, that means all their code can go upstream if Oracle chooses to. So I think that's a very interesting step.
Yeah, that actually got my attention, especially because
managers.
Sorry, because Percona and MariaDB also made their code available under the same license for that.
I don't know that they've made the code available or that they're willing to make the code available. I don't know which.
MariaDB made the code available under that license. They say that and I believe Percona did as well, not will.
So potentially that's a huge step forward, and if you got all those companies cooperating to fix stuff in MySQL and add new stuff, this should really add to the pace, especially for cleaning up a backlog of bugs.
Like bug number 2.
Well, yes, we all want toast, but
Mark Morgan, I got to know, when will MySQL make toast?
Well, with web scale, yes, Mark. It can easily make toast if you put your bread on a server while that thing's running. So yeah.
Feature coming next quarter.
Okay. I think we need to shed a little more light on what you were just talking about, Mark. So since we don't have Jeremy Cole, does someone want to take the lead on explaining this? I'll get a website opened up for it.
I got the website right there in the chat. The project. By the way, while you work on posting that, I didn't quite like the panel. I didn't think that anything informative came out of the panel. I think there was good information in the rest of the keynotes.
Yeah, so real quick, just to shift gears back to this comment about yes, Mark. So this was born out of a conversation amongst a few people. And actually, if I go to the original commit here, it's under the Apache license. But the original conversation was, how do you do very, very, very simple benchmarking? And what it boiled down to was just feeding in a statement into a MySQL system and then periodically checking your QPS. And so this was definitely born out of all the needs for benchmarking. I'm sure everyone else can chime in. There was a lot of comparisons. I think I personally got 180,000 QPS on my MacBook. Mark, Morgan, I think one of you guys might have beat me on that. I can't remember.
I think Mark beat you. I haven't tried it yet.
And Mark got over 1 million.
I got 1.5 million last night on it.
Yeah, the web scale yes mark is obviously an improvement over yes mark because it really replaces the do zero with the comment query. So
we need to get 1.1 million with yes mark, and with web scale yes mark I got 1.5 million. So
1.5 million. He must have Oracle money for his laptop.
I really did.
Wow.
Tim,
I took a
we need you to
machine with SSDs and threw that thing at it.
Tim, you need to look into YesMark and add your own spin. You're the expert in benchmarking here.
The world's worst benchmark.
I agree, Tim. I think
5.
you need to do it.
And that explains how you can make toast with this benchmark. If you heat up your server enough by getting 1.5 million queries through it, it can make toast for you.
The funny thing, maybe others can correct me, the funny thing to me is it's actually probably not the world's worst benchmark. It does test, if you don't have connection pooling or anything like that, and you have very simple queries like primary key lookups, what your disconnect and connect rate is. And for some people, if you want to test that specific feature, this micro benchmark might be more useful than, say, some other benchmarks out there that come up in the last couple of weeks. That's the funny thing from my perspective. It has more use.
I've met loads like you're describing on the field, so yes, agree with that.
Okay, so moving on from YesMark. If you're more interested, you can go to the website yesmark.sexy, which effectively just forwards to Jeremy Cole's GitHub page that talks about YesMark. And you can probably start Googling for web-scale YesMark if you're very interested to see the next improvement people took beyond that. Pull requests are welcome, I'm sure. So I guess stepping on from that, Shlomi, did you want to talk a little bit about events today and just kind of things around that? And I think the reason this conversation came up was because of how Orchestrator and sudo GTID are used, which we talked about previously here, but maybe just covering more of the implications with having events running on a MySQL server.
Right. So yeah, the topic came through some chat we have, and the question was, how do we use events? And Daniel mentioned, yeah, we use events because we inject sudo GTID with events, and then we mentioned, well, there's more to it than just injecting something with sudo GTID. There's layers of protections with events. So so we are using the event scheduler in MySQL 5.1, 5, and 6. So we are injecting various things through the event scheduler. These would be a heartbeat, like PD heartbeat, but we just do it from within the event scheduler. We're not using an external script, as well as the sudo GTID. And it just turns out that there's a few things to consider while doing this. And you really want to protect yourself against issues with the event scheduler. So let me see if I can share my screen. And this should be it. Can you see that? Everyone can see that?
Yep, there we go.
Oh, the fonts are good enough. Cool. So I'm going to show how we do a heartbeat injection and then talk about what happens with events. So heartbeat is easy enough. We create a table called heartbeat. It will have exactly one row. We're using a primary key for being an anchor, and then we inject a timestamp, maybe some additional information. Injecting a heartbeat would be like inserting into heartbeat values 1 now, blah blah blah, unduplicate key update to timestamp now. This would be what the event scheduler would do. A naive implementation would be something like this. So blah blah, create event every 1 second. Beginning now, and preserve just to make sure the event does not self-destroy when it's done. Specifically note that the event is enabled. So this is the naive implementation. Insert into a heartbeat, whatever. And the thing with event scheduler, there's a few things to consider and to remember. First is that the event scheduler is only actually running on a master. Once MySQL changes master too, so once MySQL realizes, hey, I'm a slave, it automatically stops doing events. Or rather, when you create an event on a master and you say, well, the event is enabled, it is automatically created as slave-side disabled on the slaves. And the slaves know not to invoke the event itself, but they just get the statements through replication and apply them as they flow into the binary logs. So the one thing to remember is that this only runs on the master. And then another feature of the event scheduler is that it creates a new connection every time. So it's not really a real connection because there's no username password to authenticate with, right? This is like the internal system user. However, it does have a distinct connection ID, and it gets a distinct, a dedicated thread for that connection. So this event would create a new connection every 1 second. And the question is, what happens if the master is under some trouble? Say someone is doing a crazy query on information schema tables or on issuing a show bin log event, which I just realized is quite locking down the binary logs. So things pile up, and some queries begin to lock down, but the event scheduler keeps popping up, and this event would keep recurring every second, regardless of whether the previous invocation has completed or not. So I had it in the past in my previous company. I had it twice here in Booking, that events that I created just piled up and piled up and piled up, and eventually the master went out of resources, so it got too many connections, not because there were really too many connections, but because this specific event failed to complete, and there was a huge pileup of events on the master. So every second, 1,000 seconds later, I'm out of connections. I have too many connections. So it just so happens that there's a way to protect the event. So I didn't come up with this. I think Simon Mudd in Booking came up with this first. So showing how we do it. So if we want to protect ourselves against event issues, I'm going to zoom in on that. That's the new event. We're doing a couple things here. The most important thing is that we're using a get lock and release lock around the query. So we're trying to get an implicit lock on the on this unique, distinct string. If we don't get it, we skip the query. If we get it, we're in an atomic operation, and only we can do that insert. So I'm not saying only we can do that insert. Everyone else can do an insert into that table, but of all the recurrences of this event, only one will enter that block and will try to do the insert. So there's no point in running 10 or 100 or 1,000 concurrent inserts into the heartbeat, right? It doesn't make sense. I just need it to happen from time to time. And if there's a pileup, it's enough that one makes it. I don't need all 10 to go through. So this is a very nice protection mechanism that says, okay, you know, if you get locked down by yourself. Don't bring 1,000 others with you. The next 1,000 events to wake up will just skip the query, etc. Another thing we do is that we set in to be lock wait timeout. So we just, you know, if the problem is with some lockdown and the insert gets locked, then it should expire, right? It shouldn't hold forever, so it should fail. It should fail with error. We have a continue handler for SQL exception begin end, means the event is not going to break down. It's just going to end silently. So there's a couple protection layers here, and that what makes this event quite safe to use. I don't mind if there's pile up, etc. At worst, the event won't run at all. At worst, it will run like once, and the recurrent events won't run again. So that's about protecting our events. Questions or discussions so far? Cool. If I want to show you how we do pseudo GDAD, then I just put this up today on the orchestrated documentation. So with pseudo GDAD, the idea is that we want to do to inject like random values, or values that are distinct in the binary log, and we use a nice trick to do that, because with statement-based replication, when you use random or UUID stuff, it's pretty shaky. Are you going to trust that the slave is going to do the same? So the seed passes through the bin log, but UUID is not expected to work, etc. So I want to show you the code that we use to inject pseudo GDAD. So I'm going to paste it right now. Can you see this? Cool. So the basic statement that we use for SURGDAD is a drop view if exists some name of view that doesn't actually exist. Right? The statement doesn't actually do anything. It just propagates throughout the binlog stream. And what we do is this trick where we set the UUID onto a session variable, and it just so happens that session variables are stored inside the binary logs, the binlog headers. And so once this is done on the master, that value of the session variable will propagate to the slaves, either with statement-based or row-based, it doesn't matter, it's just going to work. And so we create a create statement using a concat of that value. We generate that funny drop view if exists, blah, 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 prepare, execute, and deallocate prepare. So that's pretty much what we do with SURGDAD. This kind of code doesn't need much protection because that drop is just going to happen and it's not going to compete with other drops. Well, at least according to our test, it's not going to put any locks on metadata, etc., so we don't really care. In addition, we also do something that's very similar to Heartbeat. We insert into some status table that, yeah, you know, we've just injected that SURGDAD, and there's a lot of mess around here, but it's mostly like, doesn't matter, right? It's just like throw in some numbers, some random values, take that UUID from before, and make that an entry that is later queryable by the user. So the user could actually select to see whether a SURGDAD has been injected recently or not. So that's about how we use Event Scheduler to inject Heartbeat or SURGDAD or whatever. And the next thing to consider, I'm going to stop sharing because I don't have anything more to show. And the next thing to consider is what happens when you fail over, either planned or unplanned switchover of your master. And the one thing to remember is that, okay, you're going to promote a slave to a master, but on that slave, the event is disabled. So you need to come up with, like, either this is Chef Puppet or some is part of the script that you're running. You need to have something that checks and says, hey, I'm the master and I have events that are slave side disabled, then I should enable them right now. And for us, it's part of the failover, and it's mostly dedicated to Puppet, which is issued just after a switchover. So we say, yeah, okay, you know, after a switchover, it's okay to take a break of like 30 seconds, a minute before these events are injected again. It's okay. I mean, if that new master we just failed over to a master and it's going and it's breaking within the next 10 seconds, then, you know, it's hands-on, everybody, all hands on deck, you know. So it's okay to relax for 30 seconds and not have that injected. But otherwise, this is something that you need to take care of manually. You need to make sure that event is re-enabled. You don't really have to use an event. You can inject that from shell script, whatever, and still all the things I've shown with the get lock and protection are still useful. They're just as correct to use from cron as it is from the event scheduler.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, Shlomi. I had a question I was about to ask. Hold on. Oh yeah. So just to confirm again, so the gotcha that you need to keep in mind is that these events, when they fire these statements, they do replicate down through a replication topology. So you have to make sure to enable and disable them if you do a master replica promotion. Correct?
Yeah, you need to, whenever you promote anything to master, you need to make sure these events are re-enabled or enabled on that master. And then they will be automatically disabled. You know, maybe you just switched master and turned what used to be the active master, it's now passive. Once you enable the event on the new master, it will be automatically disabled on the previous master, so that part is cool. But if you take that master down for provisioning, or I don't know, you bring it up, it thinks the event should be enabled. That's a danger zone, right? You just need to make sure that no one in the replication stream has the has this event enabled, just the master.
Cool. Okay. And Mark, I'm wondering if I get you to talk about some of the locking stuff. Not. Okay. So I think, yeah, one of the takeaways, though, actually, Shlomi, I'll hit you up for that code snippet so I can throw it into the show notes. Seemed pretty useful to have.
Am I back?
Oh, are you there, Mark?
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. So, sorry, I set off a yes mark type thing, which was actually dropping an unknown view in the background so I could try and capture some lock info. But Shlomi had mentioned that he didn't think it makes any kind of locks that may compete, actually. And I just wanted to show that there is actually a global lock that is taken for the statement. It's actually visible in some of the new 5.7 metadata locking instrumentation in performance schema. It's kind of hard to know what kind of locks will be taken prior to 5.7, in fact. I'm just going to show you a quick screen share.
Waiting for the screen share.
If I can actually find the thing.
Now, did you just bring up a sandbox and kick open some instrumentation through sys to kind of get this, Mark, or?
Yeah, pretty much. It's taking a while, but yeah, I've got to do the whole thing. Can you
There
see
we
my
go.
screen?
Looks like it's getting ready to. There it goes. Cool.
So I have a 5.7 sandbox. I basically did a whole bunch of drop view, if exists, some unknown view into the sandbox directly, and tried to capture it. Just looking at these metadata locks. So this is the output of that, and actually what is taken for that is this set of metadata locks. This is just the base, no locks being taken. So I captured one instance of it, and you can see that there is there's one at the table level that's taken, there's one at the schema level that's taken, and then there's one at the global level. The table level is this exclusive one, and then intention exclusive at both the schema and the global level, which is kind of like the intention level locks for InnoDB. So you can actually see that there are locks that are taken both at schema and global level as well. It shouldn't affect things too much if you've got meta schemas and all of that kind of stuff, some unknown meta schema, but there are locks.
Okay, so it sounds like the takeaway is probably that if you have, so if you're doing this kind of thing, to make sure you keep it under a known schema that is used only for this type of, maybe pseudo GTID behaviors and stuff, right? Is that kind of what I'm getting out of that?
Yeah, and it should be a nice quick one anyway if it's an unknown view and all of that kind of stuff. But don't just trust that there won't be locks taken at those kind of times.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mark. What we noticed is that
I have a question for Shlomi. What do you use the timestamp for, and how does it work? Have you tested it with parallel replication both in 5.7 or MariaDB 10.0? If what are you using the timestamp for? Is the first question, and have you tested it with parallel replication? And
yeah, so two things. I've shown Heartbeat and I've shown pseudo GTID. So Heartbeat is just Heartbeat, like everyone uses. There's nothing new and special about it. It's a way for us to know what the definitive slave lag is behind the master, even if that slave is replicating through two intermediate masters chain. So that's an authoritative way to know what the lag is on that slave. The pseudo-GD ID part does not rely on timestamps. We didn't test it on parallel replication with 5.7. I know for sure it won't work with parallel replication 5.6 on per schema basis. It should work, though untested, on 5.7.5 with in order commit apply. I forget the name of the variable, as well as with MariaDB, which by default applies the transactions on the slave in the same order as they were applied on the group commit on the master. So this is really important. You can have like 5 transactions all committing in roughly the same time, and they get into the same group commit, and then they are moved to the slave, and the slave says, okay, those transactions were applied at the same time together, therefore it's safe to reapply them in parallel. That's how 5.7 parallel replication works, and that's how parallel replication in MariaDB 10.1 works. So the question arises, do those transactions now executed in parallel on the slave commit at the same order? Do the commit time apply in the same order they were on the master? If it is in the same order, then at least in theory, the pseudo-GD ID should work just well, and the timestamp has no meaning. It's just a matter of order of transactions. Otherwise, it's definitely a mess. So
Okay.
this yet needs to be tested. We are using 5.7. We are benchmarking a lot, and we're testing a lot 5.7. But of course, this is not. We don't have this 5.7 master. It's not completely in production. We just use a bunch of slaves. The same goes for MariaDB 10.1. It's not entirely in production, so we're just experimenting right now.
Thanks.
Cool. And you had something else you were going to say before that, Shlomi.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Mark. Yeah, I forgot something about the lock-in, but I forgot. I'll find him later on.
Something about the locking. Maybe yes, Mark will help us find it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we've got probably a little less than 10 minutes left. Any other questions around the event scheduler? I guess specifically around the locking that it might be happening there or anything with that. Everybody's being quiet. Everybody's shaking their head.
Yeah, I'll ask a quick question. Who here is using a heartbeat mechanism? I mean, not slave heartbeat, but like PT heartbeat. Who here is using this in production or is used? No. Okay. Cool. Yeah. For me, it's like
I used it before.
Used before. Yeah. Like we use it all the time, and I don't know. It's like the definitive way of knowing what your application lag is. That's how I see it.
So Shlomi, what did you like better about using the event scheduler for Heartbeat as opposed to PT Heartbeat? Like, was it just random you chose to use an event?
Sorry, come again. What did I like better?
Is there a reason that you prefer using the event scheduler than using PT Heartbeat?
Yeah, it's just that no, nothing in particular. It was easy for me to manage with Chef, Puppet, or whatever. It made sense to me to put it in the event scheduler. I don't have a particular preference. So the PD Heartbeat can run like as a service, and it should know to restart if it crashes, I think. So I used it before in the past. It was just fine. So no particular reason other than I had other use for it as well. So it's just fine.
All right. Cool.
And
So
so
a slightly different question related to that. Is the reason you're using those heartbeat solutions because of the sucky way that seconds behind master works? Or is there anything else?
Yes. Well,
Any other
two reasons. Yes, so 2 reasons. One is the sucky way by which seconds behind master reports. So what bothers me about seconds behind master are multiple things. One, if it's null, so if the slave is stopped, seconds behind master is null, but that doesn't give me any information about how long the slave is behind the master. It still may have relevant data, unstale data that I can use in production, but I don't know because it's null. That's fine. And otherwise, the value from seconds behind master can be jumpy and quirky. So like if the slave just starts replication and it's now doing like a long transaction, it may say that it's 0 seconds behind the master, but only after applying that large transaction, suddenly, oh my god, I'm 55 seconds behind master. And that is a lie that I cannot allow in production if my production data must have up to 5 seconds lag. So the heartbeat mechanism is an authoritative way of knowing, how am I behind. If I stop the slave, the heartbeat stops arriving, but the slave still remembers that last line that it got, and I can still compare the timestamp, so I know.
No, the no one is an important one for us to remember as well, I guess, because I mean we're looking at much better lag instrumentation through all of the replication chain, right? Not just the one-to-one.
Yeah.
But yeah, showing the non-null even when the slave is stopped is an important extra one.
Yeah, and there's another thing which you can't fix, I think, or maybe it can, but it will involve a lot of development. Is that if we have a relay master and intermediate master, so we have master, intermediate master, slave, so that second level slave could claim that seconds behind master is 0 because it's replicating from that intermediate master, but that intermediate master is lagging greatly behind the master. So in effect, the data on that second tier slave is stale, and I shouldn't be using it for serving production data. But
actually, where I just said the one-to-one thing, that's
one
of the things that we want to actually solve with the better way to report on that stuff. So it's something that we're looking at. There's a lot of good ideas out there.
I'm actually curious, Mark. Is there any public posting or work log about the ideas around this solution? Because I'm not in an environment where we necessarily have a lot of multi layers in customer path right now, but I can see use cases for that, and I'm kind of curious about what ideas are on the table to get around that.
I'm not sure if that work log is public or not. I'd have to go and look on the work log system on dev.mysql.com. But there is a work log out there around it.
Okay.
That's pretty early as well. What might be interesting is in a future week we can get Luis from the replication team to join and share some of his ideas.
Okay. Write that down.
Back in the day, I wrote a monitor to monitor bytes behind master. So when you compare both, because the timestamp, I cannot remember now the use cases, but it would not be as reliable either. But if you have an idea that you're, how many bytes behind master you are, then it gets you a better understanding and the replication, comparing seconds behind master, bytes behind master, and the timestamp, a better idea of what is going on, because
in RBR that might have a little bit of accuracy too. I mean, it wouldn't tell you which secondary indexes have to be rebuilt. Each table is going to be different, but it's going to be a lot more accurate than it would be on string-based.
Well, that would depend a lot on whether you're using row-based replication or statement-based, right? For statement-based, it could still be fairly off.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, but the overall idea was if you knew your installation, we were using mixed or mostly row-based replication, and there were people actually putting big blobs into the database, and it would show, we're these many seconds behind master, but if you look at the bytes, maybe it was because they just finished inserting these big blobs into the database, and now there were only a few transactions left. So even if seconds behind master was showing 10 minutes behind the master, in reality it was only a few seconds. Timestamp wouldn't have given us any accurate representation either, because it would also be coming behind the big blobs.
Just out of curiosity, would you just be comparing the I/O thread or the I/O position, relay log position, I guess, with the execution position, or actually go to the master and see where that is in writing the bin logs?
No, there was we picked up information from the master and counted the bin log files and the physical size on disk of the bin log files. Um, there is a blog and probably a repository somewhere that I can dig out, and I made a presentation at OSCON in 2011 or so about that.
DDLs will always be statement-based too. Is the other one besides statement-based replication?
Yeah, and actually that was going to be one of my questions to Shlomi earlier about the pseudo GTID was the reason for using a create if not exists view or drop if exists view for the pseudo GTID tracking statement. That was because in both statement and RBR it shows up as an easily consumable thing. Is that right?
Yeah, so the reason is that Orchestrator doesn't use agents on the host themselves, so it can't run MySQL binlog. It uses a show binlog event statement, which with RBR really doesn't show much in case of an insert or an update or delete. You just see that there was an insert on the table, but you don't get the data from that insert. And so DDL statements are always in statement-based replication format. So that drop view just propagates as it is throughout the binlog stream.
Got it. Yeah, and actually, and the other top thing I was going to mention was on the concept around seconds behind master. So currently we're not running a heartbeat solution, but one of the things that we do in our application is for work that generates asynchronous work that needs to go to a read-only replica, it'll actually store the coordinates from the master at the time an initial statement ran, so that when the other job starts up that's going to a read-only replica, it just checks, has it passed that position file? And if it has, it's good for a read. Otherwise, maybe make a decision to block for a couple seconds or go to the master to get the read instead. So anyways, oh yeah, so we're almost out of time, and there was one thing, thank you for reminding me, Shlomi. I think I have it open somewhere.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So Shlomi has put together a curated list of awesome MySQL software. In case you're not aware or not familiar with awesome repositories that are floating around on GitHub right now, they're just kind of a collection of tools and common things that people use. So there's stuff like awesome sysadmin, awesome security, and so Shlomi has put together one around MySQL, which, as you can see, has a list of contents around different solutions for MySQL. Tools that you can use, such as Anemometer, InnoDB Ruby, InnoTop, backup solutions, benchmarking, and so on and so forth. So definitely give this a look. If there are other tools that you use that are not on this list, I can already see right now, feel free to send Shlomi a pull request so you can see SQL Yog and Auto Extra Backup are also hanging out, ready to be pulled in. And just definitely, let's try to get a nice curated list of, here are all the possible things people can use. They're available. Here's, some gotchas. Are they commercial, open source? How do they work? What's valuable about them? And yeah, you should definitely check it out.
So there are 5 other collaborators on this repository who can merge pull requests, and I don't want this to be just my project. I want this to be like a community project. So we're going to promote open source on that. We're really not only going to accept stuff that is completely open source and no registration required, stuff like that. So it's on in the in the repository, and Sam Lambert has just turned that into GitHub pages as well. So I'm going to put a link after that.
Perfect. Actually, I can show that super quick. So just got to convert it to a nice little web page format now. So you can go to shlomi.github.io/awesomemysql to get at that. Alrighty, so we're just about out of time today, so I've got a few things written down for next time, which we meet in 2 weeks, I think. I actually have to check my calendar. I might be out, so definitely keep an eye on the Twitter handle and watch for an event to pop up on Google Events. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, feel free to tweet them at the DB Hangouts Twitter account, or you can email me or hit up our GitHub account for any of that stuff too. So without further ado, thanks very much for your participation today, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you all in the future.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure as
Awesome.
always.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. See you in 2
Thank you.
weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey,